Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday nights as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Well. We have ta-da! We have Mackenzie on, Princess, and we're here with That Silverline Show on Tuesday. We are holding down the fort while Quentin and Tim are taking a breather for tonight. I think Quentin might come on later, but I'm not sure. So is that we might touch a little bit on drawing and penciling a little tonight. But I think mostly tonight is just talking about nerd stuff.
Nerd stuff.
Do you guys talk about nerd things around here? I do sometimes a little bit here and there. I've been known to talk to nerd
occasionally.
Occasionally. Usually when I do, Jose calls me a nerd. makes fun of me. But that I don't really have to talk nerd
like
talk.
something a true favorite would do.
Yeah. So no, I guess. So I guess I just ask, like, what is everyone? Let's just ask what everyone's been up to nerd-wise. Anybody be reading any comics? Do you guys read those anymore?
We're allowed to read comics while we work? That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. I've been reading the Oswald Chronicles. I can even show it. This is the one by J.D. Calderon, who, if you haven't checked out his stuff, you should definitely go check it out.
I love that illustration.
Oh yeah, it's called the Oswald Chronicles. He has a ton of books. He's up to like 1,000 pages in it with all these different stories and stuff.
Nice.
The artwork is fantastic too. This is the first volume, and I think it was written a long time ago. And I'm reading that, and then he just got done with the Kickstarter. He kickstarts all the time, so enjoying it so far. I think I have another one coming in. I just pledged for another Kickstarter, so I think I have another story coming in. That's what I've been reading comic book wise.
If you guys feel like pledging to another Kickstarter, you can pledge to mine.
Aren't you animating some sort of show about like bears and swords and stuff?
No, it's like a short animation film that I'm submitting to film festivals. We just got the clearance that we got into some that will put us eligible for the Oscars. So like we're trying to get the funds so we can get into those since we got cleared for them.
Why not? I mean, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it's called Teddy Bears and Knights or something.
Yeah, it's Nightlights and Teddy Bears.
Nightlights, that's what it is. Yeah. I planned on pledging here soon. It's the beginning of the month, so now I have money coming in. And also I was seeing how nice Mackenzie would be to me tonight.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm gonna be extra sweet.
She's like, oh my god.
She's laying it on thick.
I know, isn't she though? You know,
let me put my crown back on.
That's true. The little crown. I'm innocent.
Of course.
Give me money.
Give me money.
It's like, give me money. I'm gonna have like T-Rexes chasing us down the street. Give me your money.
Yeah.
You would too. So then you just did something with your T-Rexes. There was a red carpet event.
Yeah, all about? So the Liberty Science Center had a gala.
Oh, okay.
I didn't learn this till later. I guess it was like $50,000 a table. It was crazy. Wow. Yeah, I had to get 6 dinosaurs up to New York City on very short notice. So that was interesting.
How do you do driving that trailer around New York City? Is that it?
You know, I used to hire people to do it. And then you kind of get in binds, and there's no better way to learn than when you're forced to do it, and you have to do it right. I feel like I'm better countryside, so to speak, because there's more room for error. I mean, I'm okay. I don't like. I've already had that trailer has already had to be like in Times Square and all that before. I rather have someone else do it then. I can do it, but like as far as like backing it in and out and all that stuff, I'd rather someone else do it. But I'm okay with it. I am okay.
Yeah, because you transported all of them.
Yeah, we had to stick all of them in that trailer. It was definitely an experience.
How do the Rexes and Raptors handle the trip? Did they get car sick?
They slept most of the way, thank God. It was worse on the way back. I think they got a little cranky. One of them moved to a complete other side of the trailer. The other one was like hitting his sister. They got a little angsty on the way back, I won't lie to you.
Do you ever do comic conventions with them?
You know, oddly enough, I would love to, but like the opportunity has just not arisen. Yeah. I got contacted like at the end of 2019, like for possibly, because I do a lot of stuff in New York City, to go to the New York City Comic-Con, and then obviously with 2020 that kind of just disappeared.
Yeah.
I would love.
No kidding.
Yeah. I would love to though.
I was even asking some of the stores around here if they're doing any signings for Free Comic Day, and none of them are. None of the ones I
it's crazy.
Yeah, I was still thinking, well, it's kind of over, right? I mean, generally people are kind of back to normal, but yeah, they're still not doing it.
I'm doing sketch cards at my local library. My local library is having like a small little convention for Free Comic Book Day.
Are they? Yeah, I didn't even know what's around here. I mean, like I said, Portland has always been really weird having so many comic book companies in the city, they don't do a lot of events. And I don't know why. There's Rose City, and then we have signings at stores, but like local pop-up conventions and stuff, I don't hear much about them. I do have this one store gentleman that's putting on these sort of flea market type events for like one day, but you would think there would be more with all these, but I don't know, maybe it's a city full of introverts.
I know that I think, who is it? Roland and who else is going to that Pittsburgh one? And I was like, hey, just so you know, I can get a dinosaur to Pittsburgh pretty easily.
Yeah.
Wait, which one in Pittsburgh? Three Rivers?
Yeah.
I've been to Three Rivers. Three Rivers was a blast, but that was pre-COVID.
I was like, I can get a dinosaur there really easy.
Right? Hint, hint.
I've done Pittsburgh events.
Have you guys been to conventions since? I went to the Rose City after COVID, and it was like half the attendance of usually.
Honestly, I haven't done much like after COVID because I got so sick, and then I just like bounced back right into the dinosaurs. So the the dinosaurs keep me prisoner.
I knew it.
So, because I was almost thinking you could cosplay your dinosaurs. Like I was thinking, if you went to a convention, like have your dinosaurs actually cosplay. Like there was an old toy line in the '80s called Dino Riders, where they had armor. So like you could put like little armor on your dinosaurs to have them cosplay as Dino Riders. Like what?
That's
like how?
cute.
Like what kind of goofiness is that?
Yeah.
Like I was thinking all sorts of crazy stuff. Like I was thinking of some Jurassic Park, but I'm like. I mean, the only thing I can think of would be kind of fun is if one of you guys dressed up like a Jurassic Park attendee, like, and then had him lead the dinosaur around. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I was thinking if there's a way to actually just dress up your dinosaur for one event, that might be kind of funny.
I've definitely dressed up the dinosaurs before. Like I've done and nothing like that yet, but like I've done Christmas and like dressed the dinosaur up as a deer and been like the elf handler. And had the dinosaurs like dress up for Halloween. Like I had like one of the dinosaurs dressed up as Elsa, another as a witch, and the one as a mummy. Like I've done like little costumes, but I've never like pushed the ante yet. I'm like waiting for it.
Yeah. I was just thinking
of like Thor.
Yeah,
that would be funny.
What was the So explain to you your Kickstarter. How long is the film?
So the film, I actually wrote this while I was down at Full Sail. Probably Roland was my teacher when I was writing it, honestly.
Roland teaches?
Can you believe it?
I wouldn't imagine. I mean, I think it would have been a blast to take his class. Like when I went to Full Sail, I had really wished like constantly that I could actually go to school on campus.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but I could have sat back in the class and just shouted nerd to him the whole time. Keep shouting to him. What's with sound effects, dude? They suck. That's an inside joke. Roland to get it.
I like Full Sail messed something up, so like I couldn't go to class online even though I moved down to Florida. It got all screwed up, so Roland thankfully let me come to a full because he was like, "Well, you're down here," and I was like, "Thank you."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably wrote this film when I was down there. It's a short 2D animation film about nightlights and teddy bears, which is, a jab of fun at like a nightlight and teddy bear, and it's kind of we keep on saying it's about the heroes of bedtime. So it's about I think we're trying to have it 8 minutes with credits. We'll see
that's not bad. Is it CG animated or traditionally?
No, it's traditional.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you guys are going traditional.
Yeah,
that's a new one.
That's awesome, but I'm glad I'm not doing that.
It's gonna be really hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. Especially we got the storyboard down, and like once you start seeing something, it looks really great on paper, and then you start seeing it, and you're like, oh, but we can do this and we can do that, and then like eventually we were like, okay, now we need to stop. We're out of place, and I mean. I know I'm biased, but I think it's really something. It's like so cute, and we all talked going into this about like what kind of animation style we wanted and all this. And the big thing that we wanted, which is kind of funny because Disney just announced that they were going to bring 2D animation back, is that
really?
For their anniversary they were going to try to bring 2D animation back, and we all kind of said the age group that we're all like early mid and late 20s for the most part. what we call so like young creators, and we said like the 2D animation is what we fell in love with, and
Right.
companies like Disney and DreamWorks are going away from that 2D animation. Like comics is still like it's with that type of artwork, but film went away from it. And it's like that's what we fell in love with as kids and what we would like to bring to the table as adults. So we kind of, for a small period of time, we're like, should we go 3D because that's popular? And we're like, that's not what we want. When we become the leaders in film, like when we become replace who is in charge of filmmaking now and get into the industry, we want to bring back 2D animation. So we really wanted to go traditional with it. And thankfully the animators have been like really great. So
yeah, or I hope that worked, because 2D. I mean, the reason 3D animation got such a huge push.
Oh
right?
yeah,
it's cost effectiveness. The cost is like a fraction of what 2D animation is.
Yeah, but I will die on this hill.
Yeah,
that there is a magic. With, like, you talk about like Disney magic, and I say Disney even though everybody else did it, but I will die on the hill that you watch a 2D animation film versus like the 3D ones that they make now, and it's like there's just something magical still about 2D. Oh. I mean, some of those 2D animation films stand the test of time, and you can say, oh, it's the storyline, but the animation is something.
Oh yeah, like, my favorite was the Don Bluth. That he was my favorite animator. Secret of NIMH, The Land Before Time.
Well, they set a mood. Like, I mean, in all honesty, like the work doing it by hand. You know, even when you're animating 2D digitally, right? When you're doing the artwork digitally, it still sets a mood. Like that is a contrast to like 3D CGI kind of animation. You know.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, Secret of NIMH and whatnot. You know, you get like, was it the old Fire and Ice based off?
Oh, Fallback. I love that show.
You know what I mean? What is it? Heavy Metal. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like that was all done by hand. You know what I mean? It's like
all of it. A lot of it.
So much better.
Some of it was rotoscoped. Fire and Ice was rotoscoped. There was actually a lot of scenes in Heavy Metal that were rotoscoped. The final scene with a lady, I think her name was Tarja. A lot of that is rotoscope. But rotoscoping doesn't bother me. And I remember animators always be like, you rotoscope, you're a cheater. And yet now everyone does motion capture for 3D. And I'm like, oh, okay, so now that's not cheating, right?
That's not cheating now.
I know. Now it's okay. So, no, rotoscoping I think is totally fine. It's still the
same
work.
Consider rotoscope, and within that, like, of like, of a 2D animation one. I mean, it's just a tool. Like, I know that's how people felt about digital anything. You know,
which seems so weird that
like you can still use it for anything else, but like
but it was like this claim to fame, like, no, I only do it by hand, and I'm like, whatever.
I've done digital animation by hand. I don't like it.
No, I don't either. I don't think any of us are going to going to 3 Rivers of Daytona cons. I do not know. I know I'm looking into it, but I know airline tickets have shot through the roof recently, so we'll see how that's going. 3 Rivers, no.
Yeah, we were planning a family trip to California, and we had to cancel that.
I might crash 3 Rivers, regardless of whether I'm actually invited or not. I'm just gonna go crash.
Just gonna go crash it.
Awesome.
How much was
like a GoPro helmet on your dyno?
Yeah.
How would the tickets going to California? Was it just like?
I mean, they were pretty pricey because of gas and everything, but like, is that and other stuff, like, just all of a sudden things kind of just dropped on us, and we're like, there's no way we can make this happen.
No, they're like ridiculous. I used to be able to like fly to Chicago for like $120. I checked, it was $520. I was like, absolutely not for a 45-minute flight. No.
Yeah, because I would literally flying across the country. I'm in Portland, so I'd be flying to Florida. I mean, unless Florida breaks off and floats into the ocean.
California will fall into the ocean before Florida does.
Do you think California and Florida will find themselves in the ocean and form a new country?
No, it'll be a half-foot to McCoy. Think about it. Florida as a whole is conservative and whatnot, and California
they would just repel each other. There would be 2 floating states warring at each other.
Jeez.
No, so I saw your Kickstarter. So you don't have any preliminary animations or anything to show yet for the.
Well, like we have not really. We have like the turnarounds done, and like we just got like the animatic done. So like we have the storyboard. We're planning to like
Okay.
do like glimpses of that. We added a couple in the Kickstarter, plus like I think the turnaround of maybe the knight and the teddy bear are in there. But
Okay.
yeah, we are like literally we got hit really early on with like COVID delays. Like it was like literally, I think every single person in pre-production got COVID. It was like we were playing, which we rather have the delays happen earlier because pre-production is way early, like it's easier to work around than being in production. But like I'm telling you, I think every single person in our pre-production team got COVID. It was,
yeah. So you
it
just
was
passed
like,
it around.
oh my god,
know, right?
it was
like,
but it was like I was like, we are all working remote. Like everyone is on a different corner of the country, and every single person got COVID. I was like, what is going on?
It's like almost the Poltergeist cursed with the movie. Hilton Night's 204 for one night.
God.
Yeah,
what is the hotel?
It depends on where you go and how far from the convention you want to be.
Yeah.
I think one of the years I went, I think I was like 45 minutes to an hour away, and my hotel room was like pennies in comparison.
Wow.
Like it's not that big a drive. You just take the like whatever the highway you're near.
It's just crazy the prices. Like I got for like a previous film that I did, and it won a bunch of awards worldwide, and we just got invited to the Indie Short Film Awards out in Los Angeles. It's like somewhere in Hollywood, and like it's in September, and we're just kind of weighing the options because it's a great opportunity because everything else like they did just remote, like they didn't have people come in for the film festivals. And we're like, but we're looking at the prices and the hotels, and it's like, oh my god, is it worth it? We don't know.
Right.
What?
You have a cat back there.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. So I was gonna not to change the subject. I was gonna ask this, Carrie, because you're a writer, Mackenzie. Yeah. So you penciling pages. Since it's about tonight, subject is about penciling pages, which we'll touch on that a little bit here. When you write your script, how do you write do you write descriptions about? So when I write, since I'm a penciler, when I write scripts for myself or other people, I will write like this is a 3/4 shot, or this is an overhead shot, or this is the midway shot, and this is the. Do you write that, or do you just generally write like this is what should be in the scene? You choose the angle.
It really depends. I know there's a lot of people that just, some people just write comics, some people just write films, and like I'm all over the board because I get very bored. So I'm like, I'm gonna write a movie, and then I'm gonna write a script, and then I'm gonna go write a comic and jump back and forth. And I really like working with a lot of different artists. It ranges because like Quentin and I, when we met and I started telling him the story and we're throwing things back and forth, even Quentin said this, like our creative flame, like really connected, and that doesn't always happen when you work with artists. So like sometimes you're throwing things at them and they're not catching it, and you're like, okay, is it their creativeness? Is it my creativeness? Am I not doing this correctly? Like Quentin, for example, I feel like everything him and I communicate about, we really are on the same page. I haven't had one thing like it's like literally exactly like for Night Rise, what I was thinking. So I might say like, for an example, for Night Rise, I'll be like, if it's very complicated, sometimes I'll draw out the boxes and attach it to like underneath and be like, this is how I was thinking it.
Oh, a thumbnail. Yeah.
And I'll be like, this like a close-up shot, here's these two characters, this is what's happening at this angle. I probably do a little more movie references or camera angle references than I should for comics, but it just works, with how I dual things, it kind of works for me. So I don't feel like I give Quentin as much detail as I do a lot of other projects that I do, because I feel like Quentin is an artist that he always picks up what I lay down. And there's things where he's like, the other thing is I'm one of those people that I'm like, oh, don't change it if I didn't say it that way because I might have a plan. But Quentin's always like, well, if I change panels, will that be okay? And it always has been okay. But sometimes there's people where I'm like, okay, this is word for word what this needs to look like.
Yeah.
So I'm usually, like I said, it really depends with who I'm working with, because I'll just like kind of read the room and read the exchange and what the artist is giving back to me, and then I know where I have to be for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Because I get some of the scripts I got from people are very loose. Or I'm always more detailed thinking as an artist, but sometimes I won't say that. I'll just put it in the information. But a lot of scripts I've written, I write for myself. Generally, I don't write a script for myself. Sometimes I do. I was writing a script for myself for a story I was planning to do later, just because I didn't have time to thumbnail it, so I was just writing it out.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I want writers sometimes do that, and then there's the Marvel method where they just give you a synopsis and let the artist just kind of. I think Roland does that some.
Yeah.
But
I feel
just
like
like-
I morph between it. Like there's some pages where I'm like, okay, this is what's going on. Like, like I remember there was a battle scene, and like I said, I'm like, Quentin is someone that, like, again, he picks up what I lay down. So I was like, there was one where it was like an open fold, and I was like, here's a battle, like, draw it how you will, because nothing is said. It's whatever you want. Here's some of my ideas, but have fun with it. And he was like, cool.
So you got a lot of people dancing in the scene.
Yeah, just a lot of like
It's a
cha-cha.
dance battle. It's not like weapons and whatnot. It's a dance battle.
Yeah. He didn't
The
specify what
disco
kind of
ball
battle
comes
it
out.
was.
Mhm.
So I mean, now Jose, do you have a copy of the script when you ink?
I mean, ideally, it would be nice, but that doesn't.
Do you
always
want? I
happen.
have a copy of the script. Do you want me to forward you that?
You have like pages left, like.
Yeah, like this one is done, but for the next one, just because sometimes it might help you get a sense of the story. Because I just get.
Hey, I know you're done, but this would have made your job easier.
Yeah. He's like,
Oh,
this is what I think the story is supposed to be, but I have no idea.
Right, man. If I go back to the script for issue 1, just like, oh geez, I destroyed that. What was I? That's terrible.
I didn't want to say anything, but I mean, you know. And I am done with the first 6 pages of issue 2, so I can start sending those to you, and
not yet,
so
not yet.
No, it's okay. They're coming to you. I'll just start dumping them on you.
I spent the last few days, because I was only able to put a little bit of time in a day, but doing working on inks for the variant cover that Dean did.
That was it. Yeah, Dean did. Yeah.
I know it was being passed around for like a minute amongst our group and whatnot, but I'm like, I wasn't gonna say anything, but like Roland's like, I'm gonna send this to you. I'm like, all right, that's cool. People were having so much fun with it. I didn't want to say, yeah, guys, that's me doing it, you know.
Yeah.
See, this sounds fun. You're like, oh, it got passed around, and then I had a heart attack because my script got lost. I have no idea.
Yeah, you said it got lost.
They're like, you were supposed to send this in, and I was like, I did. Who has it?
I thought it was funny because I made the reference. I think I told my wife. I made like, oh, I know I'm supposed to be inking in this cover, and I see this person asking for it and this person asking for it. Like, it's being passed around to other people. Like, it reminds me of what happened with my son when we finally took him to go see my family. Like, after my wife, it was our first kid together. You know what I mean? Her first child, my second. Yeah. And she was very protective, like definitely very mama bear. And we went to go meet my family. I just took him and started passing him to my mom, and my mom passed him to my aunts and whatnot. And my wife's like, "Where's my son? Where's my child?"
I don't know, somewhere around
it's
here.
It's my first comic. Like, it's my first comic, so I'm like, I need to know everyone that's touching it. I want to know like what's happening. And then like somebody's just like, "Oh yeah, I saw it. It was great." I was like, "How did you get it?"
Right?
Like, where did it go?
Yeah, I read your pitch to Roland because he sent a list of pitches. Like I said, I almost chose yours.
I know you didn't think I was good enough. I know.
No. You know, it's okay. I mean, you're young. You have a lot of time to work on that.
Hey, but like, listen.
Because I was doing fantasy, so I thought, well, I'm going to try sci-fi for now, and yeah.
Hey, you know, we all make bad choices, and that was
we do. You know. And I'm not even drawing. You guys have seen the stuff that I'm doing on the 2 pictures, but I'm doing a different thing for a story because I'm drawing obsoletes, and then I'm doing this barbarian character called Nock the Barbarian. I called him Nock because I was
I
thinking
just
nocturnal.
saw, was it the other one? You did the second picture.
Yeah, like the
Yeah, I saw it.
tentacles.
Yeah.
It was
That
supposed to be
cool.
the idea the tentacles were coming down, and he didn't know they were there. I just thought of nocturnal, and I just knocked, and I'm like, Nock the Bar, and I don't know who this character is. I'm just drawing goofy pictures of him.
I dig it.
He's funny. Why not? Just keep me drawing.
Right.
Drawing my own stuff. I think I always have to be able to draw my own stuff or I go nuts. Nothing against Roland and all the stuff he keeps sending my way. And he keeps sending me this like geeky comic book stuff. Whatever. But so do you pencil, Jose? Have you pencil pages and comics and stuff? Work on
I
scripts?
penciled in school, and I don't mind doing it. I'm just not very good at it personally.
Okay.
And I know people are like, "Oh, if you can ink, you can pencil." It's not really. Doesn't translate that way to me.
Yeah.
I
think they're two different skill sets.
Even if people like Aaron does not like drawing panel borders at all.
Me, strangely enough, I do. What happens is they're so light. Like if you look at my page here, I'll get one of my actual pages I'm working on. The panel borders are in there, so I rule them out. I don't know if you can see them. I rule them out,
Right.
and then when I scan them, they just kind of vanish because they're so lightly drawn on.
I took where the artwork stopped, and just sometimes I have to like change the depth a little bit, just to make sure all the gutters are like fairly the same size.
Strangely enough, if you want, I can just start putting a black board on a separate layer around it. Okay. Yeah, because there was a few things where, because it's so light. I mean, I see them on my page. I mean, they're clear as day. And then I scan stuff in, and then I'm like, where'd the borders go? And I'm like, what's the borders in my world? Everything is free flowing like a Will Eisner comic. And
but yeah,
it all goes with the flow.
I'm not. It is not my strong suit. I really do prefer to do inking, which is funny though, because before I went to art school, I hated the idea of like ink and stuff on my hands.
Oh, really?
Like I don't like touching boxes because I feel it's like dry, and I don't like the texture.
Yeah.
But like ever since art school, like one of the things Jan Dursema said to me was like, if your hands aren't dirty by the time you're done inking, then you've not done it right. I was like, okay. And I get that. I was like, really? Like, I have to get my hands dirty? And then at some point during school, I stabbed myself with my crow quill. So now I have this black dot tattoo right there. It's the only tattoo I will ever have, unless I stab myself again somehow.
I told you about. Did I ever tell you about the guy? Because I went to and there was a guy in there that would drink out of his ink bottle accidentally. He did it twice.
That's gross.
He's sitting in the back the first time we heard cursing, and he's like spitting out black ink. And then a few minutes later, we hear him do the same thing. And we're like, dude, he's inking, and he would reach for his drink, which apparently is right next to the ink bottle, and he would take the ink bottle and drink. I'm like,
yeah, but how do you not look at?
I've only ever seen people do that with like
very
their chew stuff. They go and have like a spit bottle and accidentally drink out of the spit bottle.
How do you
not?
That's rather nasty. That's nasty.
Like,
especially when someone drinks out of the wrong one. And I'm saying that's not their spit bottle. It's like a guy.
I've had cousins who did that. Like my cousin had a bottle next to him, and had a like a McDonald's cup, because McDonald's cups used to come in like paper white cups.
Yeah.
And he would like spit his stuff into that through with a straw and drink out of his bottle. And then cousins would come along like, oh, my cousin has a glass of pop there. I'm going to grab it and drink it. And by the way, I'm from the north, so it's pop. In case anybody was questioning me.
It's not, but okay.
It is.
It's
why you don't have your crown anymore.
You can't say anything. You call the thing that heats your room a radiator.
We keep adding R's, so everyone says
when we came to Pennsylvania to like look at houses when I was before I went to school.
It depends. Radiators are the ones against the wall.
Well. Are you in the right stream, sir? You can't just barge into people's streams.
Oh man, it's good to be here.
It is. We're talking about.
I'd get y'all's views up.
Get y'all view. Well, that's true, considering they go down so much with me here. But like Jose said earlier, it's like they watch me. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. That's why they tune in.
Yeah.
Right? Car crash,
yeah.
train wreck. Everyone turns to look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you want to look away, but
Bunch
you
of
know,
rubbernecks.
yeah,
Oh
you
yeah.
have to see.
Yeah, we're talking about penciling pages. We're talking about writing scripts because Jose doesn't really pencil. He's penciled a few pages in school, but he likes inking more. He likes to trace more than he likes to draw.
I like adding depth and texture of my own, right? To
Now,
something.
and Chasing Amy, that was the whole thing about tracing. Now, when I went to Cuba, I never heard that joke. Now, I'm not saying it
Right.
didn't exist, but in that movie, there was the guys kind of like, you trace, you're inking, you're a tracer. Now, I've never heard, you as an inker, have you ever heard somebody say that to you, that you trace?
I hear it more, or I heard it more after that movie came out.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like I
Yeah.
never even like. I think when that movie came out, I think I was still in high school, and
Right.
I never once heard that. And even in high school, I knew I wanted to ink. You know what I mean? I knew I wanted to work on comics. I just didn't have the confidence or like support to like tell me, "Hey,
Well,
yeah."
because
That's
it was
something you
always
should
such
do.
a weird thing when they would call it tracing, because to me, tracing is actually like you're drawing like in pencil. That's why I think of tracing. Like you're tracing something in pencil, but
Right.
going over something in ink, that's defies even the concept of tracing. I understand it was a joke, but I never really got why, like, oh, you're a tracer, you're inker, and I'm like, no, that would be like calling somebody who colors on a picture with color crayons like a tracer or
Right.
something. I
Like,
don't know. I didn't
never-
really
I
get it.
never
He's going
understood
over
it,
the lines.
and I never heard it. Like I said, I never heard it
Yeah.
before that movie.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, because I heard it in the movie. I'm like, is this a running gag in the comic community that I just haven't heard of? Because I never heard of it either until that movie.
Yeah, and then after
so
that movie, I heard
all
about everything. I graduated from
Yeah.
TV school. I still heard it about everything. I'm like, really, guys? We need new material.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, yeah. And ever since Key and Peele did the Aaron skit, I've heard that forever.
Oh yeah.
Listen, I still call my kids AA Ron.
Yeah. Well, that's just said out of love and just to
Right,
build character in them,
let's
right?
see.
So Quentin, do you pencil? Since you do digitally, do you really pencil your stuff, or do you do a rough sketch and just go straight to ink?
Not when I do digital. I'm fixing to share my screen, but I do a lot of doodling before I do anything else. And I think I've shown this before, but like I have notebook after notebook of just stuff, just random stuff, and
boy, that is
so,
random.
like me.
Yeah, I just fill stuff up. I mean, just one thing after the other, just testing out arms, hands, looks, facial expressions.
See pictures of my mom in there. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do a lot of this. I'll do it this way, and then just if anybody ever goes through this, they're gonna notice that sometimes I flip it. Like if I get down here where it's hard for my hand to get, I just flip it over and start drawing upside down. So whoever gets this after I get done with it, they're gonna enjoy looking at it.
I never kept. I was
They're
really
gonna be
bad at.
Yeah. What is this? Oh wait. Turn it
I
sideways.
never kept sketchbooks. I don't know why. I've tried to actually keep sketchbooks.
I've never been good at
just
it.
a habit. Yeah, I just have never been able to do it.
Well,
I just paint on floors and walls, and then it gets covered up.
It's covered up, but it's there for all time, right?
What's funny about this
Every
though
so
is
often, anyway.
this is one of the reasons why I don't use a sketchbook or like a notebook, is because I always hated like the pencil smudging. So if you'll notice here, I am doing only ink in
Jose
here.
got
This
on
is
his
all
fingers.
ink. Yeah, this is
I
all
know.
ink. So whatever gets drawn in there is in pen, so it's staying.
Yeah.
But that's because I hate when the pencils. I work so hard on something and the pencils smudge. And in the early pencil stage, there's just a certain spirit and vibrance to it. Sometimes I hate to finish stuff because it's got it loses something when you start really laying some hard lines down and getting rid of other lines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it's funny because when I almost, as weird as it is, inking and penciling are such distinctive disciplines a little bit, that with digital, because like when I do digital, I'm very rough like that, and then when I go in and draw over my roughs, I just draw it in black ink. So it's almost like you're technically getting rid of inking and penciling in a weird way, but combining them in another way. Like, in other words, when you finish pencils, I do finished pencils for the inker, but I wouldn't do finished pencils for the digital for me because I don't need to. Even for myself, I will do finished pencils before I ink it. If just when I ink my own stuff, I do finished pencils. But in digital, you don't even need to do that. You could just do roughs like that, and then immediately just start drawing in black ink, and then it's technically inked when you're done
Yeah,
drawing it.
it's a wasted step when you
Yeah,
do digital. But
yeah,
another thing I say about it too, though, is again, like I don't know. I seem to do better this way anyway because
mhm,
with too many steps, I get bogged down in it, and it make it just I don't know.
yeah,
It loses something. Once again, it loses something very important, and I'm not sure what it is, but it just doesn't feel the same as when I go to the inks, and I don't like getting tired of something for sure. That is, I have a time
yeah,
limit on stuff, and if it goes over that time limit, then it's not fun anymore. It's just work, and I
yeah.
hate when it comes to that. But it
Yeah, I
does
don't
happen.
know. I was going to. I think this obsoletes. I was going to do digitally, but since I'm already doing it traditionally, I'm just going to finish it traditionally. Partly it's because I like
Thank
drawing on
you.
my table, and just because I was trying to figure out a way to draw in pencil on the computer, and the way they mimic the pencil is they give a very rough edge to mimic that pencil. That's technically not how pencil looks on paper unless you magnify it. So it's like I'm drawing in pencil, and I was like, yeah, but this looks very rough. I'm like, I could just do this a fraction of time, and then because it seems like to you, because is no one's even inking Night Rise, are they? It just goes to you to the colorist. No one's inking it, are
Yeah.
they?
No, I'll be inking it.
Yeah, because it's just, and it's not even the fact that it's an extra step. It's just you in the process of drawing it digitally are inking it.
Yeah, it's a wasted step
Yeah,
when you work digital because the whole point of penciling something is because you can erase,
right.
and if you can erase your ink, then why even
Right.
go
Right.
there? Uh,
Yeah,
you might as
it's
well just
weird.
skip.
I've seen I know artists who will pencil pages roughly. I think Ryan Oatley does this, and then he will pencil them, and then he'll print them out, and then ink over them traditionally.
Hmm.
Which and I mean, I do think there is
Well,
still a little bit of a difference between digital and analog art. I think it's the gap is slowly coming closer together, but I do think there is a little bit of you can see it a little bit.
well, I will say this though. I don't want anybody to get me wrong here. I definitely see the value in penciling something not digital
Yeah,
and then bringing it in and doing it, the rest of it digital,
yeah,
because there is a bit of a different style. Because if you look in my notebook and you look on here, there is just a teeny bit, just it's got something to do with the roughness of the paper. It's
yeah,
got, it just you just work different on your notebook than you do on the glass,
yeah.
on the or whatever you're using. And
It is.
I definitely see the value of doing it outside of digital and then bringing it into digital.
That's usually what I did with my Godlings. It was not. I didn't ink my Godlings. I just did refine the pencils and colored the pencils and did that. Uh, just because I thought that the ink lines looked too stark for this sort of old book page I was going for, and I liked the idea of seeing the sketch lines behind it. They used to do that in the Disney used to do animation. That one of the big examples, 101 Dalmatians, where
Yeah.
you would they would animate and you would see the underdrawings. And I thought that was such a cool because especially as a kid, as an artist, seeing the underdrawings come on, I'm like, oh wow, look at that's cool. And I was like, could I do a comic like that? You can if you find the pencils and leave the underdrawing in, you can do it to a point. That's what I wanted to have. So I skipped inking as a step, but I wonder if I would have inked digitally now. I usually ink by hand, but I'm so used to doing everything by hand that there's still something I derive the most joy from doing it by hand than doing it digitally. Digitally may speed it up, but I have more fun doing it by hand, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I actually like my favorite is to ink traditionally.
Yeah. There's just
Like,
something about it which very relaxing and I don't know. And I'm like, and it's I mean, I have no problem working either way, but just to speed it up. Yeah. Cuz I thought about I was my pencils weren't going to come out right with the obsolete. It's not just like, well, since I started it analog, I'll just finish it analog. But my next comic series I might. And I've thought about how fast I could even do a comic series. I thought about doing little one-shot stories by Nock the Barbarian. Nothing big. Like, I was thinking of making each individual issue its own little story. Like, basically Conan the Barbarian. Every short story in Conan the Barbarian was its own story. We didn't need to read them in really any order. But I was curious with digital how fast I can get it done. I don't know, maybe. I noticed that there has been some slowdown. I've noticed, and this may just be me practicing with digital. I'd be curious to ask Quentin this. When I do my pencils, when I go in and do over the final ink line, I usually have to do a second pass to go back and thicken up certain lines that are going away or that are in the shadow. So I'll do it all like the fine lines in ink. And I'll go back and thicken the sort of lines that are below where the light's shining or whatever. So you usually have to do a second.
I do that. Yeah, I do that.
So.
Yeah, I do that quite a bit. I'll go back over lines like whenever I finally do this guy right here, or any of these, I'll go back and whatever the lines are farthest away from the light, I'll start darkening up the under edges.
Yeah. To show where the light's coming from and that, where you're going to
see it. And it adds just a little level of interest to it. Or so they say.
Now, is this a cosplay convention you're drawing here?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, they're all in line to the bathroom.
For the dance battle.
This is the dance battle. This is the cosplay dance off.
That's what they're all doing. They're dancing around. It's a dance off.
Just for on a separate layer, you should draw on like a hot, sexy cosplay in the background. Because I could just like, you had all these cosplayers, and there has to be one girl that's like in a bikini, but with a skull mask on or something.
Yeah.
Because every time
that would have been one of my friends.
Well, I see these videos on Facebook all the time, like cosplay at, WonderCon or whatever. I just saw another one. And some of the cosplay is like people making robots and really cool. But I'd say almost half of it is girls in less and less clothing. And I'm just like one person showed, like some person that was supposed to have jeans, but they cut, like the cosplay had like person wear jeans, but they cut the jeans off in little like jean panties or what. I'm like, okay, so it's sexy versions, which I always thought was funny in Halloween. They do that. It's always like sexy pirate, sexy nurse. But then when they go to cosplay, it's the same thing. It's like, we could take this sort of version and make it sexy for me. And I was just like, huh. And I've been to enough conventions. I know that that's just true. That this, and I don't know if it's just the characters. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the characters are made by guys, so girls dress up. But it was, I don't know. I was always like, but then I see men who dress as He-Man and just wearing a Speedo and just walking around in a Speedo with a sword, and so there's that too. So.
Yeah,
I look amazing in my sexy nurse cosplay.
Well, I know you sent me those photos last night. I mean,
See?
So I have proof, evidence, and stuff. So you're not coloring it, are you, Quentin? Or are you coloring it?
You know what I've decided to do, and I decided this just today as I was talking to somebody. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to finish out coloring this page and the first page just to set the tone for whoever takes it up. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to color the first and second page. Of course, I haven't run this through anybody. I still need to talk to Mackenzie about it. Still need to talk to Roland about it and everybody, but just to kind of set the tone. Now, I don't mean for them to match and do what I do. I'm just saying, like, as far as color wise,
Well, I got
I think that's kind of what we needed for the like how we talked about last time. Like the Christmas one is it's colored beautifully. It's just like wasn't our vision, which it was fine. So it's
and there was no way the person could have known. Because there was no kind of they didn't have all the stuff, and it was a bit rushed on some parts. But most comic book stuff is a lot of times most of the most famous stuff. Secret Wars. I mean, they had people staying in hotel rooms. Drawing in hotel rooms overnight, all night long. I mean, that must have been madness.
Speaking of Secret Wars, the Ringling Museum. One of like the satellite museums up until I think 2 months ago. No, last month, March. Up until March, they had Mike Zeck exhibit. So like they had all his like the secret like was it Secret Wars the first issue for Secret
Hmm.
Wars. He had all his work up there, and then GI Joe Classified, like the actual pages and whatnot. I went and saw it before I had my bionic eyes put in. So
Wow.
everything was like super hazy. I had to get real close
Really
to the
close.
page. Like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm half blind, people. Like, don't judge me.
Back away from the glass, or no, I can't see anything.
I never got a chance to go back and look at it with my bionic eyes, but man, they were trying. I think they're going to try and bring his stuff back. Like he was supposed to come and like be there for signings and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but he never ended up making it. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
super cool, like to see. Like you brought up Secret Wars, so it was really cool, like to be able to
There
see the
was
pages.
one show that came here that was more like cartoonist, but I've never had. Again, Portland's an anomaly. You think we have a lot of art museums. You think one of them would put a comic book gallery show up because all the comic companies. I
I
haven't
know.
seen
I've
one
seen
yet.
Portlandia. You people are weird.
I watched 10 minutes of Portlandia. I'm like, yep, those are the punks that live across the river from me. I didn't need to watch anymore. I'm like, yeah, this is just the stupid people I deal with every day. So I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, I never watched it. I didn't need to. I
Yeah,
lived
like,
the
You see it
adventure.
every day, huh?
like I said, it's
Portland
like
is not that weird. That
When you brush your
show,
teeth.
that show painted the city out to be like this is weird. The city is much more angsty than like, oh, it's goofy. It's like no, everyone's just angry in Portland about everything.
You know, the times I've been up north, yeah, that seems to kind of be the thing.
We're all
And
cold
it's
and
not
grumpy.
really just north; it's metropolitan areas for sure.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but you know, a lot of times people say, "Yeah, I really like that place," or "I really didn't like that place." It's usually because somebody was either really nice to them or
Or
really mean
really
to
mean.
them.
Yeah.
And it's like the old saying goes: a place is only as good as the people you meet there.
that's true.
Well, the fact that I live in Vancouver, Washington, you should never come to that place. It's like I know that guy. That guy's a punk. I like all the little skeletons. So it's an undead army, or these.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead, Quentin.
you go ahead. No,
Okay.
you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. So we're leaving a lot up to mystery about them.
Okay.
They're called Dark Souls, and they kind of everything the pretty much what we're going with everything they kind of touch they destroy. So they're kind of like they're supposed to bring death and destruction. So in ways they're like an undead army. That's like but they're not considered they're not undead. That's just they're like like they spawn from death, so that's just how they
And
look.
they're called Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I'll give you we haven't really gotten down super hard into the super particulars of it. But I will tell you just where my thinking is if you look at the armor, you'll notice that it's not really blacksmithed armor. It's a little bit more organic looking.
Yeah.
So
Reminds me of orc
that
armor.
could give you a direction where my brain took it whenever she explained it to me. At first, when my initial drawings and some of my initial sketches of everything, I had like all this armor, and then I was thinking of this little goblin making all these people's armor and stuff, and I was thinking, you know, that's just been done to death. So what if we did something a little different? You know that. Anyway, that was my thinking.
Yeah. It's just kind of funny because he was kind of like before, and Quentin, I don't know if you remember this, but like it's kind of funny because the very first, like it wasn't even anything like legit. He was kind of sending me doodles he was doing from his booklet, and they were really a lot more, like he just said, organic. And I don't even think necessarily the first drafts of them that he was doodling even had armor. It was kind of just like these skeleton creature. It looked awesome. And then when we got down to it and we got the character, he did have this bulky armor. It didn't look bad. It was just, you could tell he was wearing it. And it's funny when Quentin brought this back, I was like, yeah, I love that even more. That fits them so much better. But it was kind of funny because I don't even know if he realized he did this. He kind of took his original doodles and morphed it with what he had created and took it back to like the middle ground between them, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah. Are they going to have like glowing light coming up around their skulls?
Yep. Well, some of them will. Some mainly this guy, because he's the look at that wicked cool fire
he's the
there.
Man in charge.
Right.
Yeah. Man, I've been practicing on my fire. Yeah. Been doing that a lot. So it's funny when you get to drawing stuff. You can't really draw like real fire. You have to kind of settle on a style of doing, what looks best with, the way you want to make things look.
Yeah.
That's why, some people, draw from life. And I always say, yeah, but you do need to see what's out there, because there's some things that's really subjective. And something like fire, I mean, yeah, you go ahead and try to draw that from life. It's tough.
You could draw from life. I do agree you should always draw from life, but comic books a lot of exaggeration, so you also got to exaggerate to make it look cool.
You want to like get that middle ground between like realism and like pushing the ante, but not too far that it's like, because we know this won't happen in real life, but you want your brain to be able to compute it and go like, yeah, I can see this.
Yeah, and you have to be able to exaggerate as well. I tried a realistic style years back, and there was just something about it I never felt good about, and what it was missing the exaggeration. And the thing is, we're working with still images, and if we were making a movie or something, you might be able to get by with bland stuff. But with it being still images, you have to really, show things exaggerated to be able to get your ideas across. That's why I really think it's funny when all these people are talking about how exaggerated somebody's muscles are, or somebody's facial expressions, and they're like knocking the artist and his craft by saying these things. What they don't understand is, like I just said, we are working in a still medium. It's still. It's not going to move. But if you exaggerate things, you can make it look as if it's in motion, or yeah.
I always think of like comics kind of like when you learn about like film and theater. Like film, you don't necessarily exaggerate things because the camera is so close and you can see the emotions. Where theater, you have to make sure it gets to the last row, and I feel like that's like between like the comics and the difference, because once Quentin said it's like a still medium, so like you need to get the emotion and the movement that's not there in that first shot.
Yeah, well, it's like somebody explained it one time as like miming. They're not telling you what they're doing; they're having to use their body language to explain it, and they kind of go a little bit overboard with some of their gestures and stuff, just to let you know what give you more of a clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
So when they're pulling themselves on the old rope, they're moving their whole body with it. And that's kind of what you're doing with the comics. People would not stand in these ridiculous poses. Of course they wouldn't, but people are moving, and they're not sitting still like these people. So you don't have to go that extra mile. But yeah.
No, and you're penciling a 2-page spread. I think this is page.
Yeah, I had to make my own template.
Is this 2 and 3?
Yep, 2 and 3.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're starting it with a bang, just like Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings. You remember in that first? Y'all realize we got that huge scene at the beginning of that with the battle against Sauron, and we didn't see another battle like that. There was plenty of action later, but it took us to the second movie. The last quarter of the second movie to get that again. But that was enough right there to make you wait. Wait for it.
So now you just, I mean, either it's a cosplay group, because I know they're coming at the guys with the fire. Are they selling something? I mean, maybe they're just traveling salesmen.
Fundraising. They're
Or
fundraising.
They're just going
Fundraising.
for like they're just heading off to the grocery store. That's all that's happening.
That's what I thought.
I
Yeah,
thought
they're
they'd
just
be
going to the
all in
grocery store.
line for the bathroom at the con.
Yeah,
which is-
yeah. I think
You should-
like the group to the right.
What's he doing in there?
You should draw one in the back with a bag of groceries.
Yeah.
Just trying to get home, man. Well, it's looking very family friendly, Quentin.
Yeah, that's what I'm shooting
like
for.
Quinn. I know I always tell you this, but like it looks banger. It looks good.
It looks okay. I mean, you can't give him that much credit.
I have to. Like I'm in love with it.
So, and this is 4
I
issues
appreciate
long,
it.
right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
like, I'm gonna see if I can talk Roland into more because it's not enough.
Oh, you don't need Roland's permission. Just make it.
just
Don't
be
let
like,
don't
"Keep
let
on
Roland
signing."
tell you what to do.
Rolling? Who's rolling?
Yeah.
I don't know, some
No, I'm
dude.
just kidding.
Like what? I'll be like, I'll keep on. I'll send it to Quentin directly.
Right.
I'll be like, here's
Yeah.
issue 5.
Um,
Here's issue 6.
I don't know what they're talking about, boss, but if you're watching,
Yeah.
I'm not involved.
Apparently, Jeff Potts sets a sale on jelly at the Piggly Wiggly. That's what I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
they were going.
Oh,
That's where I thought they
they're
were
going.
going.
Yeah.
You know.
Give me the
Um,
jelly.
But I do think that guy all the way over to the right might have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You think so? I mean, he looks
Yeah.
up. He looks like he's holding
Yeah, if
it.
you can see down here, his knees are together.
Yeah.
He's holding his pee-pee.
He's waiting in line at the bathroom, yelling back at his
Oh,
girl.
my
He's like, hurry up!
No, it's looking good. I haven't, like I said, I draw my stuff analog. I draw some stuff digitally, but the only stuff I've been drawing is my Knock the Barbarian stuff digitally. Drawing the other stuff analog. So, yeah. So I'm almost, and then I think Obsoletes is 4 issues too. So I'll be done with that, and then we are kickstarting. We're kickstarting the Kickstarter in May with that From the Stars, which looks really cool, and then Cray, which is this big barbarian.
I have to get with Roland because like I think I just fell so in love with this story. Like I wanted to keep on going, and like I'm gonna see if he will let me. But like I had like another idea that I like kind of told him about in December, and I want to like get back on that one because like I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and I kind of sat down and like 2 stories came of it. So I'm like, dude, I'll keep giving you stories. Just keep letting me go.
That's a part of me. I started writing because I had another comic story, and then a few of them that I thought about doing in the works. When I sat down to write a story, I'm like, no, I just got done with 300 pages. I don't want to write anything right now. I'm just gonna draw stuff. That's when Knock the Barbarian came in. I'm like, I don't want to write. I just want to draw stuff. I want to go straight to the fun part, and that was my goal with that. Yeah, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So, yeah. So I was like, no, I'll just do that. The other people write.
Yeah.
So what is tonight's theme? Did I hear right that it was penciling?
Penciling. Yeah, that's where we're talking to you about your little skull crowded scene.
So let me ask y'all this. Let me do a little survey here. What do y'all think about seeing penciled comics like that you buy?
I love
like they're finished penciled.
It's finished penciled. I love that. Blade of the Immortal does that, and I fell in love with that.
Yeah.
Now he'll mix it between inked pages and then he'll do pencil pages, and he mixes it back and forth. My Godlings is all pencil with color. I don't know if many people can even tell though. I've actually confused a lot of people. They think it's ink, and I'm like, no, it's not ink.
On the pages that were up on Webtoon.
Yeah, what?
You can tell the Godlings was done with pencils, like just because the texture of the pencil with the colors overlaid on top of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
It gave it's pretty cool. Like it made it look like like you unrolled like an old scroll and whatnot, and there's illustrations on there.
That's the whole idea behind it. Because I actually did go back and ink one panel of my Goblins when I was first starting to see how it would look with an inked panel, and it was too much of a contrast between the old. Like I found like the rough pencils behind it with the pencils actually looked more like somebody would sketch in an old scroll, and it just worked better. So I did
Yeah.
that. I love comics that are just straight pencil. Like I said, Blade of
I
the
do
Immortal.
too.
There's been some other ones that have the Crow. The Crow does some pencil pages. He would mix in ink pages,
all the
and then he would do pencil
what
pages
are
in
they?
it.
All the flashbacks. All the
Yeah,
flashbacks were penciled.
and they were fantastic. I
Yeah.
actually like using that, and I thought that was a very ingenious way of doing that, sort of like going from ink to pencil and like using the pencil as a flashback motive instead of color or
Yeah,
that he used
yeah.
it as a way to do flashbacks. So yeah, I wish, especially with modern technology, I wish I'd do more penciled comics, because I mean, obviously the printers couldn't pick up pencil. That's why we did inking in the old days. But I do
Right.
think there's
Mhm.
something that you could do really cool pencil work today and do some really cool stuff. I'd wish I'd see more of it, just because I think it's unique and different.
Right.
But it doesn't really lend itself to. Well, I guess it could lend itself.
I think
to
that's
color.
the issue of why you don't see it.
Yeah, and also I think just because I've seen some people do pencil comics where they do like the Foley, like using the pencils to render out lifelike shadows and stuff, and that gets really cool. It's time consuming.
Mhm.
I mean, I think if you were to do a Foley like all like the different hard like hard hardness of graphite, like HB and B1, 2, and H3 and stuff, that it would take almost as long as doing a fully painted comic, because you would have to render each shadow and
Right.
stuff or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right. If you ever look at
Yeah.
Rags Morales' pencils for pretty much everything he does, he's all about using his tortillon and just blending the crap out of the pencils and you know what I mean, the
Yeah.
graphite on his paper. Like just like I told him like a million times, like when I saw him, I was like, dude, like seriously, everything that he did for Hawkman and whatnot was just like beauty and to perfection to me.
Yeah.
Like even the commissions he does and whatnot, like I couldn't get enough of his stuff.
Dean's pencils are Resident Dean. His pencils approach more like fine art pencils. I would love to see him just do a straight up penciled comic. He might have to get a little more refined in some of the backgrounds, but I think he could pull it off. I think that'd be really
Right.
cool. I think there's
Yeah.
something. I like black and white comics, and I like different black and white, but I know color is like color never goes away.
I think it depends on the book, like honestly. Like
Yeah.
not every
Yeah.
black and white book is good. Some of them I don't think that people like, and I didn't learn it until I was in school, but I don't think people understand the value, you know what I mean, the different values of the shades of gray that they have.
Yeah.
So they may think like adding this here and then rendering this in gray here and then this and but if you freaking look at it, like it doesn't, like when you print it off, it doesn't come out very well. You know what I mean? You have to understand the balance.
I do find it weird that I remember hearing a lot of American, I can say American comics, going to get into your point. Most American comics won't sell without color. Like Goliaths are supposed to be done in black and white. And then they, I was going to pitch it to a company. They said, well, they won't look at anything that's not in color. And so I colored it, which I mean was no big deal either way. And I think it works better for the color. But I do have, it did start out in black and white. But I do find it weird that so many American comics, they don't sell without color. And then you go to manga, which is all
It's
black and
almost all-
white,
yeah, it's almost all
Yeah.
black
and it's
and
all
white.
selling. So I'm like, that theory doesn't hold up sometimes. But it's just difference of readers. The people who read American comics expect color and the pizzazz, and a lot of the people who read manga don't really seem to. They care about the artwork, but they're expecting something different.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just two different things. I always thought, because the one thing I'm getting tired, and this is all the colors on comic book land. The old every page is a monochromatic tone is getting really, really old. They'll like this page is monochromatic in all greens, and this will do all
Right.
these. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They do this all the time, and it's like, no, there's more colors in your rainbow. Take all the crayons out of the crayon box and use them.
Well,
It
that,
just
as a colorist, that's a great technique. It really is, because like for certain things you can use, like I said, the different shades and values of like green or red to like separate your foreground, middle ground, and background.
Oh no, I think it's a good
great
technique. The
but
problem,
not using it so much.
exactly, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying the technique itself. It's just every single comic uses it where the actual point to. I mean, like if somebody's going into a room where there's like a blinking red light and it's like a murder scene. If you do it all in shades of red, that's adding mood or whatever.
Right.
But when every single page is done this monochromatic tone, it's like you're losing the storytelling technique that provides. Because you're like,
it's
if you're
not
going
unique
through,
anymore.
no, it's
Right.
not. And I think a lot of people get a hold of these storytelling language. Oh, that looks cool, and they do it all over, not realizing, like, yeah, but this could be used as a language. I mean, obviously movies, and McKinsey would know this. Like, movies and stuff do this all the time. Mood and stuff. And so I don't know. Not all comics do this, but there's a lot of them. And I'm just like, okay,
again,
I get it.
what works for film, like, it's, again, we go back to that thing we said earlier, like, what works for film doesn't always work for comics, and what works for comics doesn't. And I remember when we were doing the Christmas special, I said something about a flashback, and I wanted it to be like all one color and it go across. And I didn't necessarily mean all one color, but like kind of like how I was thinking of when you put like a film over the camera and it like distorts the kind of how they did with Twilight, like everything was a blue hue. And Roland's like, hey, like, I just don't think that's gonna like translate well to a comic, and but you can, like, it just sometimes it doesn't work, and you have to like change your entire thought process of what will work for this
stuff. And I've seen some people mix story, movie and then comic book mediums. I mean, I remember Ang Lee's Hulk did a pretty cool job of doing like comic book panel borders when he did the scene transitions.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I thought that was cool, and that's the only time I've ever seen that in a comic book movie. And I thought, oh, wow, that's really cool. That you could use that sort of storytelling, the bordering technique to actually do that stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. Do you think so? I'm gonna ask Quentin. This is using digital. Do you think penciling will eventually become kind of not a lost art form, but a transformed art form, since you're technically not using pencil anymore?
I don't know. Honestly, I believe it's what is coming in comics is just really going to be up to people buying it.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those things, whatever's trending, because I think we're seeing what is going to be until the next trend hits. And I can't imagine, I can't imagine there being, I mean, and of course I could be totally wrong. I can't really see the future, but I mean, comics have always kind of survived the same way they've always survived, is the best way. I mean, it's really subjective. That's my take on it anyway. I don't think it's really going to change much going forward. Like, for instance, cartoons.
Yeah.
Cartoons changed, like y'all were talking about earlier. That was something that was fundamentally changed, and once it was like, now everything is 3D, and there's barely ever any real cartoons that are hand done anymore. But I don't really see that happening here. I mean, it could, but I just don't think there's enough money in it to
go fully. Yeah.
And if I can add on to that, like how Quentin just said about the film, like, but then you have like a young creator like me that it kind of is like they say about fashion always coming back. It's like, oh, when this person, it's the same with, like, for an example, like film. I love 2D, so when I become, the next generation of filmmakers, like I want to bring back 2D, and I think then once I bring back 2D, the next generation of filmmakers will be like, no, we want 3D. Like, it just is a process, and it's kind of like, that's why I don't think these things actually die, because you always inspire the next generation. It's kind of like another thing I'm into, books. I feel like they try to do the Nook books, they try to do Amazon Fire, all of that stuff, and it kind of didn't take off like they thought it would. I'm not saying it's not around, but people just like holding a book, and they're like, but that's the old way of reading books, but people like it. And I think that's kind of like penciling. It's not going to get lost because some people just like, whether it be just holding a pencil in their hand and penciling or doing it that way. And that's why I don't think those things will be lost.
And it could be a generational thing. I mean, it could be the younger generation I have a friend who reads books all the time, and she reads a lot of books on the phone. She still reads stuff from the library, but she reads tons of books on her phone. And so there's that where people, younger generations used to consuming things digitally. I, being my age, I'm not used to it, so it's still kind of a annoying. I don't know. I mean, I don't like sitting at a computer and reading. I'd rather go be able to take it somewhere else. But of course, I have a desktop, not a laptop, so somebody with a laptop might be able to sit on the couch and read a book or whatever. I still like to hold it in hands, but that may be something generational to just eventually work its way out.
I would never try to call what's coming down the pike, because let me tell you, when I first started designing, I would have thought by now we are designing like for t-shirts and just everything in general would have been really far advanced by now. But now what you see is, because of the internet, something totally on a different subject, the internet comes along and people start doing stuff by themselves, and it looks like hand done, and it doesn't look finished or polished. It looks, and that's where we are in logos and stuff. And a lot of stuff looks like, if Bed Bath and Beyond, I remember when the distress look came in, all this time we spent, trying to make everything look nice and crisp and clean. And then everybody wants distress stuff and hand drawn looking stuff and scratchy and scribbly and sketchy. And, I never would have saw that coming. I would think, we've got all this hardware, we've got all these abilities to do all these cool things, and everybody wants, rugged, rustic, hand done things. I was watching Star Trek, and that was my vision of the future. That's where we're headed. But no, everybody just likes wood houses, and just so happens that they like old fences in their front yard and old Western wagons and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
there were so many videos I did and because I do motion graphics, where people wanted to animate rough sketches in notebooks. Like every time I was a hand draw for any of the videos, because I did almost all my stuff in Illustrator. But when it came to me hand drawing, almost all my hand drawings are supposed to be just like, well, it's like a scientist taking a note in a notebook. Just draw something really sketchy or whatever, almost something indecipherable. And I'm like, I would do that in seconds, scribble out whatever they wanted. But it was kind of like, wow, I had to go to college for this, and it seemed backwards. I mean, it's like I could do more, and they don't want more; they want less. I'm like, okay,
well, I know how to do more.
I remember when I was growing up, and they would have like shows or whatever of the future. Well, like for instance, Bill and Ted. They had people in the future in different movies and stuff, and people had on these jumpsuits that were real sleek and all that kind of stuff. And then the 90s hit, and everybody's wearing stuff with holes and wearing stuff sagged down to below their butt crack and stuff. And it's like the style went more couch potato and less evolving. Here we are thinking everything's going advanced, and now everybody's wearing pajamas out to Walmart, and
well, they've always done that. I remember when overalls came back, especially in women's wear, but it was some men's wear too. And overalls, I thought, was something that was more of a used for. I mean, it wasn't so much of a fashion statement as utility clothing. I mean, you would wear overalls to work on the farm but they would make it a fashion. But it did seem to go a little backwards. I'm waiting for you like the complete space jumpsuit, not the overalls. Overalls were clothes because it was connecting the top and the bottom a little bit. But I'm waiting for the full piece spacesuit.
The overalls, man, were brought back. Like, was it in the 90s, 80s?
Yeah, and they would always.
I think we're saying overalls, but I think it's coveralls is what I meant. The coveralls, like where it's all like you say, one piece, not the overalls like farmers.
No, but that's what I was saying. I thought it'd be one piece, but they got close to the one piece thing, but it was overalls instead of like the coveralls or whatever. So,
Well, I know that when I was growing up, and it may have been where I was growing up in Mississippi, like if we were going to the store, I mean, you had to get some, you got to get your nice studs on, because we don't always go to the store, which I'm probably different because of where I was raised and who I was raised with. But, we always dressed up. If we went to an event, if we went to church, if we went to wherever, we were going to be dressed pretty decent, and now literally there's people who go to work, and I don't mean work at home. I mean, there's people who go to work literally in their pajamas, which if to each his own. I'm not saying anything.
And if they allow that at their work too. I mean, it depends on
I
the
feel
work.
like the first eye opener I had was like, because like I went like and I told you guys this before, I was what I say is raised by an older generation. So my mom was always like, you look presentable when you leave the house, like
Right.
like all of that. I'm not saying you had to be like, put your pearls on, but look presentable. And if you go into the workplace, if you go to school, like I went to Catholic school for 8 years, so I'd wear a uniform. And then when I got my first job out in California, like I remember, like I didn't dress up, but like what I even thought was dressing down. Like I'd wear like a nice pair of jeans, and they'd be like, "Why'd you dress up today? Like why did you?" And I was like, I just put on a nice blouse and a pair of jeans. Like I was like, how is
fancy? That's why.
Yeah, that'll teach you. What are
Yeah,
you
where
going
you
to
going
church
this
here or
evening?
something?
Yeah. You put makeup on. Where are you going?
Amazed. I was amazed because I said something like, "Oh an actress came in and my boss just happened to be in the room," and I was like, "Oh my god, I love your hair." I forget, she had dyed the color, and I was like, I can't wait until I'm done working so I can dye my hair, because that's, again, my mom told me, like, hey, don't, like, when you're working and representing a company, you don't do that. That's just how I was taught. And my boss goes, why can't you dye your hair? And I was like, well, just because I'm the front desk. And he goes, I don't care if you dye your hair. He's like, what the hell do I care? And it was like crazy to me.
She comes out in a complete clown outfit. That's not what I meant.
No. The one time, I'll have to find the photo. So the one day they were like, you can just dress casual. And my mom was like, do not, like, she's like, just don't wear pajamas to work. So the one day I took my pajamas to work, and like, I was like Star Wars pants, a Star Wars shirt, and slippers, and I put my feet up on the desk, and like the entertainment company logo's behind me, and I'm holding my scripts, and one of my coworkers took a photo and was like, Mackenzie came to work all nice today.
All nice today. She's wearing her Sunday best.
Yeah, her Sunday best.
Man, yeah, I worked in a studio where I can jeans and a t-shirt. I mean, and we had one of my coworkers would wear like his jeans and t-shirt looked like they were like falling apart.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a studio. I mean, rarely we had anyone come in, and then we didn't know when clients did come in. I mean, it's funny because my boss was like, let's clean up the studio, but he didn't care what the coworkers looked like, just as long as the studio was clean.
Yeah.
I guess. And I always thought that was like, okay, that's a little weird. And but yeah, I mean,
yeah, but trying to figure out what's coming down the pike, I don't even, I'm never surprised.
From home in our pajamas.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And I'll tell you something about that too. I know a lot of people do that, but I, for one, the first day I started working at home, I had to have my shoes on. I had to have well, look, I've got my company shirt on. I make sure that I dress totally up and everything, just like as if I'm going in the office. I just do that. That's just the way I am. Because I don't feel like I'm at work. Mm-hmm. I have done that before where I dressed down and I just didn't feel like I was at work. Therefore, I didn't want to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was something about dressing up. A lot of times if I most of the meetings I do with clients, that nobody uses their camera. So I'm like, okay. I'd always like get ready and dress like I was going to work or whatever to be on camera, but no one else used the camera. It's like, okay, whatever. So,
I just have my lounge pajamas and then my work pajamas and then like my go out to Walmart pajamas.
I'm trying to think. We do have Walmarts out here, but I think we have more Targets or Target. We call it Target, but Target's out here.
Because it's fancy.
Yeah, because it was all fancy when they came in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only thing that was nice about switching back to 2D animation took so long to do that when they dropped the movie, it felt like an event. This is one of my problems with the 3D animation. There's like another one coming around the corner like that. Mm-hmm. And I know they're not made for me, but it's like this oversaturation. And it was like, I remember as a kid when a 2D movie came out, you got like one a year. And it was like the big thing. Maybe a Don Bluth, maybe a Disney. Like I said, I always remember the Don Bluth ones because I thought they were cooler because they were edgier, especially like the Secret of NIMH with like the Great Owl and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool. They had this like almost horror elements to it that were really cool. Disney kind of did that a little bit, like the Black Cauldron, which actually wasn't a very good movie, kind of did visually like
I
more
forgot that movie existed.
Yeah, and it was weird because the end of the movie was very. I watched it again, thinking the endings, and and the movie's great, but the ending just seems so kind of like, okay. Visually, it's great. But yeah, I mean, Disney used to do some pretty. I mean, the Night in Bald Mountain, which was what that piece from the original Fantasia, where the mountain comes alive with Halloween, and the ghost. So that's horrific. Disney used to do some really cool horrific stuff. And as a kid, I grew up seeing all that variety. It wasn't all just kid stuff. I mean, they took it as an art form and did all sorts of really interesting, cool things with it. But again, it took so long for them, and I think that's why maybe more movies, because again, there were so few in a year. Sorry, there were so many now, but there were so few when I was growing up. I mean, it was such a huge deal when one came out. It was like a big event, just a new 2D. But now, I can't even keep track of how many like Baby Geniuses or Pixar movies, and it's funny. I was surprised the last Pixar movie went straight to Disney Plus. I thought Pixar movie was supposed to be this big deal.
The last three Pixar movies went to Disney Plus.
And did they bomb or something? I mean, it's weird. No, wasn't it like a huge deal?
Outward was just bad timing. Like literally, the lockdown happened in 2020, and Outward was supposed to be out like at like the next 2 weeks. So they put it just on Disney Plus because that was when Disney was trying to promote everyone staying home, and they're like, hey, instead of like, since movie theaters closed, watch it.
Because I remember that was the fantasy one with the two kids and
they
were like punk rockers almost. Actually, and that one with like apparently didn't have a spell with like the dad's pants were walk or something. And
it wasn't my favorite, but you know,
it was okay. That's always been my problem with that. People love Pixar, but Pixar they're very strangely enough. Pixar is creative, but not sometimes as creative as I think people are. I mean, they did the Invincibles, Fantastic Four. They did WALL-E. That was Short Circuit, Johnny Five. I mean, you could definitely see literally like the influences in their movies from other stuff.
Yeah.
Which is not technically bad, but I've already seen those movies. You know, I liked Monsters, Inc. because that was unique. Toy Story was unique. To a degree. I mean, I've seen other shows done with toys come alive and stuff. But you know, those are relatively unique. But the one that I liked was Brave because I thought they advertised as something else, and then it was like the mom turned into a bear, and I'm like, wait, what? So that was different.
I think I just took that one to heart too much because I loved Brother Bear growing up, and I feel like Brother Bear is just slept on, and I was like, okay, they made another person a bear.
It was weird because I've noticed this in all. I was telling this somebody else the other day. Like I noticed that when one person, like there were like the studios who all make 3D stuff, all do like they come out with movies and themes. Like they had Despicable Me, which is about the supervillain, and then one had to do Mastermind, which is another supervillain. And so you see these trends where they make like their supervillain movies, and now we're done with that, and now we're making fantasy movies, and now we're done with that, and now and I've seen these like, do these people have do they spy on the other studios? I really wonder because they all just seem to coincidentally come out with the same sort of theme movies at once.
God, if you can figure that out, please let me know because like I was literally right in the door, like end of 2019. It was like, like I have a script that like it's won awards all around the country, and studios were interested. I talked to managers. I was like right at the door. Some big dogs were interested, and then 2020 hit, and they're like, "We'll get back to you." And then they're like, "We'll get with you. We'll get with you," and never did. If you can figure that out and where my film will fit into it, let me know.
It's weird, kids. The one thing, and I've said this just about movies in general, and this is just about creativity in general, is I do feel that the internet has kind of killed originality to a degree because you can always check and see what's popular or trending. Like when they made like Star Wars, like people say, would there be something as such as Star Wars be made today? Not like Star Wars the movie sci-fi, but like something that was so different and out of left field that Star. Because I mean, Star Wars came, it was really out of left field, even though it was influenced by Flash Gordon and a lot of other serials. For what it was really out of left field, and it was because he just made it because he thought it was cool and put it out there. Now, so many of these corporations will follow trends and do what's trendy and do what's cool, and it's like, yeah, but
they don't focus on originality either. Right. It's all about like I've said this a million times. Like a lot of studios are a lot more interested in doing remakes and things that are inspired by things they already know work. Like, oh yes, we can see the connection to this, and this did awesome. So we're gonna try that, and that doesn't necessarily. Sometimes it's better just to go with original, but I don't think we've made it to that spot yet. It's kind of like,
and I feel it's just gonna get worse. Even comics and games do it to a degree, but movies seem to be the worst offenders. But it's just that everything creatively starts to kind of just gel together, the same look and same design. I mean, I was a big fan, like people on here know, I was a big fan of Aliens and Predator and Terminator. I don't think we'd ever get something unique as those again. And I think it's just because the internet. I mean, it's like, why take a chance on an unknown when, especially with the remakes? I mean, if you look at the concept of remakes and the price of movies, well, there's already built-in audience for all these other movies. If we can capitalize on that built-in audience, why not? The problem is we see the remakes continuously fail and fail and fail, and you think they would learn the lesson, but they never do. No. And the original idea of remakes that I remember was that they would just want to update the visual effects. And then it just got out of hand, and now they're remaking movies that have no visual effects.
And again, I really don't understand it, because I get the thought process, I do, but I feel like so many have failed, and like now, and I'll bring this up again because I know we talked about this before. Disney bought the rights to Aragon like over 5 years ago now, and it's like you're focusing on remakes, and you have this whole book series that was extremely popular. Why don't you put your money into making like new content? Why are we remaking things?
Well, I've even heard that they want to make like even the Avatar: The Last Airbender, as far as animation, came out of left. I mean, that was unique. The thing is it's a big gamble to do something original, but if it catches, the payoff is so much bigger than if it wasn't. It's whether or not to get these people to, because I've even talked with comic book guys who are like, well, let's do this and let's do that and let's make it like Star Wars, let's make it like this. And there was one train of thought. I had this guy that was he liked Star Wars like most people, but he was putting a lot of Star Wars reference. Like, he brought up one character, and he's like, what do you think of this character? I'm like, it's Boba Fett. They're like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it's Boba Fett, except his armor is orange and something else.
Yeah.
No, it's not. And so I ended up adding like wings to the character, little insect wings, and something to separate it. But he put a lot of Star Wars references in there, and I think some of them have this sort of thinking where they're like, okay, if people who like Star Wars will like my stuff because it's similar to Star Wars, so they'll spend money on Star Wars and then spend money on my stuff. And I'm like,
and that's not how it works at all.
No, they're going to spend it on Star Wars stuff and ignore your stuff. People who like Star Wars aren't looking for Star Wars adjacent. They're looking for Star Wars stuff.
I'm just like, that's why everybody like goes to me about like stuff that's like Star Wars, and I was like, literally, it is Darth Vader or nothing. Don't give me the knockoff stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, look how many knockoff films and comics and ideas after Star Wars came out. I mean, there's tons of movies and comics and books that were complete knockoffs of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, and Star Wars is a knockoff of Flash Gordon. I mean, it is. They just added
like everything is a knockoff of everything at this point. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so, but it's so weird that a lot of people, like, we make something like this popular trend, will cash in on that. And I'm like, that doesn't work. It sounds good in theory, but people don't do that. They're not going like, I want to buy Star Wars and everything that's like Star Wars. That's not what they say. And when people have a limited money, they're going to spend it on what they want, not something that. Now, I pick up things that are unique and that look interesting, but I don't buy stuff because, oh, this looks like this or that. I buy it because it looks interesting. I'm usually looking for unique stuff or something I've never seen before, but I know that in the world of fandom and stuff, I'm the anomaly instead of the norm. I remember Christopher Nolan said this when he was making, I think it was right before he made the Dark Knight series. He said, he's like, it's funny. He's like, during the 1990s, everybody wanted originality. And it's like every time you'd make something that was like something else, people on the internet would come on and say, well, that's a ripoff of this, that's a ripoff of that. And it was like, this interview's done in the thousands. It's like now everybody wants something that's similar to something else. They don't want originality. And so they don't accuse you of copying. They go, oh, if it's like this, then I can watch it. But that only works really in movies sometimes, and not all the time. It's weird. It's like comfort food, but it's one of those things like it's just, and again, I mean, you could blame the fact that movies are getting so expensive to make with all the visual effects and stuff that people are just willing to take. And the same in video games. I mean, all the big video games all play generically the same. It's like, yeah, because there's tons of money in there and they're trying to cover their bets, so to speak. So that's just why in comics, sometimes I'm always like, well, I want to see really cool original ideas because there's no budget. You don't really have an excuse.
Mm-hmm. There's no excuse here.
There's no excuse not to do something original. I mean, you can. So yeah. But yeah, I've
well, and I don't know if that's how you guys like approach things, kind of either when you're drawing or when you're even writing. Like, if I know, like, if I notice that some part of my story, I'm like sometimes I write it and then I'm like, oh shit, like that's similar to this, and did I even mean that, or was it just something that happened? But I'll look at it and I'll go, okay, how can I make sure this is mine? What can I do to make this like
different?
What can every possible thing. And one thing, like for Night Rise that Quentin did, it took me a little time, but like I'm so glad that we did it. Is like when I imagined the Dark Souls, I imagined regular fire, and Quentin automatically drew them with purple fire. And he was like, oh, I just think it's something unique, and I love it now because like that is something that like you would look at that and you're like, oh yeah, that's Night Rise, where it sets them apart.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that was my contention with the red, is because if you look at any of these games or properties, it's always red, lava, fire. Well, this adds a little like something, and even green. I like the idea of using green, because it's got like an undead kind of connotation to it. But at the same time, that's kind of done too. If all you got to do is run around and wow, huh, Jose, Mr. WoW player.
Yeah.
How long has it been since you played WoW, Jose?
It's been a minute.
Just a minute.
I think the last time I played was when my wife and I had I think maybe my daughter Elena, my youngest. But we had a situation I wanted to play, my best friends wanted to play, and her ex-husband used to play EverQuest, and he dropped his everything into it. You know what I mean? So like, she had already had like a bad taste in her mouth for like MMORPGs, and I was like, listen, I'm gonna
go tell her to brush your
play
teeth
with my friends, but I'm going just call me just once, and I will strand them wherever they're at. And there were several times where I would have one headset on and the other one off, and I'd hear her call me from the back room, and I'd be like, all right, guys, I gotta go. I'd drop my headset off and I bolt, and we'd be in the middle of a raid or middle of a boss fight, and they're like,
oh, that's tough.
Where did our healer go? Where the heck is he?
It's like, yeah.
Sorry, guys, my wife calls, I'm answering. That's more important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's been a while. I haven't played, man.
That's why I play single-player games for the most part. Because I can pause them.
Last time I played WoW was Warlords of Draenor. It's been a while.
I don't think I ever played WoW. I got, strangely enough, I liked the art style, I liked everything about it, but then I saw it was literally just hold button down and attack. This is boring, so I just didn't connect. I remember when WoW became big, but I just never got into it.
I like the travel, the traveling between places in the land. But I always thought that was cool.
There's definitely people who. I think I just like games that are more focused. This is why I think we talked about Skyrim. I couldn't get into Skyrim because it's a little too unfocused. I like games like, what do I have to do to get done? And then when I'm done, I move on. And that's just me. Even in comics, I do that. I will finish. It's very hard for me to multitask in comics.
Oh my god, I'm just that person that goes off on side quests forever. You need me to find the flowers? I'll go find the flowers.
Okay.
There's missing cookies.
Because even in comics, I have a method that when I was making Godlings, I would draw 3 pages at a time and color them and draw the next 3 pages. And I don't know why 3, just some odd number. Now, but like I just thumbnail it out as I go along. This time with the obsoletes, I thumbnailed out the whole comic, so I know what I'm drawing. I just have to sit down and draw it, don't have to think about it.
Right.
There's a few things I procrastinated on with steps. I mean, I procrastinated on coloring. I don't know why, but coloring I procrastinate on, and I think it's putting in the flat colors. Because every time I put in the flat colors in my drawings, I always think, "Oh, this is going to look like crap," and then I add the shadows and highlights. Like, no, it's awesome. But man, that stage in between adding the flat colors before you start shadowing it, yeah, it just looks like crap. It makes you almost want to give up. Like, this is going to look like crap.
I hate getting into that whole thing, making. Then I am driven to work on it till it looks good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you have to remember that, like, what you're doing, it's like, okay, I'm looking at the eggs, I'm looking at the butter. It's like you can't judge a cake when it's just the ingredients until it's all together and finished.
Oh yeah, I pushed myself through it, but even this last one that knocked the Barbarian, I was like, man, I'm not liking this. I messed with the colors and then of course I put it on, and I did a purple light in that one because I was going to do a green light for the Spectrum. I'm like, no, I should do purple as far as the light, so it's kind of a purplish hue, and just play with it and stuff, which I think is a unique color. I didn't know that. I stole it from Quentin, who was the original. I think he invented purple, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we got way off of what she asked, but yeah, what I have to worry about, and I'm sure most artists do, is not having other artists' work influence mine too much.
Yeah.
That's one thing I have to kind of watch out for. Because that's a real thing. I get to looking at somebody's stuff and I'm like, man, this is so good, and then like it starts showing up in mine, and I'm like, whoa, now, wait.
Yeah.
Do you catch it right away, or do you?
No, I don't.
That stinks. I've had that happen where it's like, oh man, I'm gonna do this. Like, I want to have like the flow of this dude's coat go a specific way, and then I'm like, crap, I just basically drew freaking Hellboy.
Now, I'll be honest. There's some things I intentionally like. I like that, and from now on, this is what I will do. This is the SOP on doing fire. It's like this is how we're doing it from here on out, or at least for this book. And and then that's what I'll use. But sometimes I have to kind of cut myself off from certain things, if I see that it's making a little bit too much of an impact. Yeah.
That was the one thing I never could, because I draw my skulls like you sometimes, but I draw like the eyes looking mean, but then I always think like, well, can they move their skulls like skin? Like, in other words, like, I always wondered that, like, you draw a meme because you don't, I mean, the skulls, you can make them look spooky with the eye, and in the eye sockets as they are, but if you want to give a mean expression, you have to bring down the actual skull brow, which technically can't move, but it looks cool. I don't know, even when I draw myself.
If I was making a movie, I would probably do that.
Yeah.
But with this, it being still, you can see his intent, not a skull that looks like he's either smiling. You ever notice how skulls look like they're smiling sometimes? Oh, yeah. And if you turn them at different angles, they look like they're worried, and this, which can be creepy in itself, sometimes if you think about it, but that goes back to the exaggeration part. But yeah, I know what you mean though. Like these wrinkles here, and I've got the little lines.
It looks
there.
cool, but I mean, technically, can skulls do that? No, but it looks cool. I mean, and that's the important part. You get this mean, but even when I'm drawing, I'm like, is it like maybe some skin over the skull? Or I don't know. Whatever. It's just.
But you can tell his intent is to get to the vegetable section before the lettuce
to get to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yes. The cosplayer section.
Yep.
Do you ever draw smoke coming out of their mouths? Like, I always do. This is a stupid thing when I draw skulls. Like, I would draw like a skull, like smoke or like vapor, like trailing out of their mouths or their eyes. they give it that spectral look. I've seen other people do that. Just
It depends on what like there'll probably be some of these guys that do have that. But yeah, it really depends on what I'm working on, what I'm doing it for. Like if it was undead, like somebody coming out of the grave, I might have I don't know, like I'm not sure. They may not even have a jaw, I guess. I don't know.
Sometimes I'll do that. Like I'll draw like the jaws hanging by one hinge if I do a skeleton, or there's like the skull is cracked open on top and like, there's nothing inside, but like there's cracks in it or holes in it or stuff. Yeah. I think that's the one thing I did like about drawing skeletons and stuff, which especially like zombies and stuff, is you can kind of draw that crazy angled stuff, and the angles didn't really have to look right because it's a zombie. In fact, the more non-angular and weird it looks, the more horrific it looks. So you can kind of just screw around with it.
That's funny that you say that, because I know a lot of artist friends that just they hate zombies because they're like, I feel like I have to do everything like atomically correct. They're like, if I get something like wrong because you can see it, like somebody's gonna go after me because I need to know what muscle is here and what it looks like.
Oh yeah. You could just draw. I mean, when I draw my zombies, I draw like muscle and bone like flaying off. I never look at the muscles because, I mean, it's just a walking pile of meat. The muscles don't work anymore, so you can do whatever you want. You could just have fun and just kind of go to town.
It's funny the sense that people have. It's like it's a zombie. I mean, you're shooting them. The body has to mechanically work. Yet you just blew, all of his muscles out that would move his body. I mean, you can get apart all you want to, but in the end, it's fun. It's a story. It's not really.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the
out stuff, and a lot of times it's all in fun, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like people talking about, like Superman. When he. It was one of those movies where he lifted up that whole island. Do you remember Superman Returns?
Yeah.
Y'all remember that? He couldn't do that. Like, really? He couldn't fly either.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I think one of the weirdest ones I saw when it comes to zombies, when he did Two-Face in The Dark Knight Returns, Christopher Nolan. It looked cool, but I don't think that guy would have been alive with half of his. I don't think he.
No,
and you wouldn't have
the infection. He would have died of sepsis.
Yeah, he would have died. And the fact when he was talking and like half his lips, you wouldn't have understood him at all. So there was lots of.
My mom or my sister about cried when he there's a scene when he goes to the bar and he takes back the alcohol, and she's like, that would burn. So,
oh God, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looked freaky and scary,
open skin and.
Well, not to mention his eye would stop working because he can't actually, the eye would dry out, and this is all sorts. Yeah, he would. But I mean, it looks freaky, and he was only alive.
Cool. That's all that matters.
Yeah, which again, I never point that out, except Christopher Nolan does tend to push towards realism. So when he does stuff like that, you're like, okay, that doesn't. He's a mixture. He does realism, but then he does stuff like. That wouldn't work, but whatever. I still enjoy his movies.
I think you're too busy in that movie looking like at Heath Ledger anyway, like his performance in it, that to take notice of Harvey Dent should not be alive.
Doing that or whatever. Yeah, not at all.
That's how they distracted you.
Yeah. Because in the comics, his face was disfigured, like the skin, and they went no, it's just half of his face missing and his skull. So that was completely different. I'm like, okay, that was the first time I'm like, well, the comic book actually sounds a little more realistic. Half his face would be scarred, like skin scarred, not half his face is missing skin. That was a little okay, that's a little, but
I think that what happened with that one, honestly, I don't know if it was intentional, but I was reading something a while back. And it was they were doing prosthetics, and the more prosthetics they did, the more they were like, oh, we could do it this way. And then it got into a mix of prosthetics with the CGI, and they did win an award for the mixture that they did on that, the movie with all the prosthetics and the CGI and everything. So I think it just started to get away from them until they're like, okay, let's just push it all the way.
Let's just go all the way.
Yeah.
And I mean, it totally worked for the horror element, and there was a sense of horror element in Christopher Nolan's Batman film.
Yeah.
But it was the first time where I'm so like, yeah, his face is just supposed to be like burnt, like a burn scar, not like gone. But I mean, it's its own. I did like the way they did Joker with the scars on the side. I thought that was a little interesting. So yeah, it's just like, again, if you're going to push a movie into realism, especially a comic book movie, and Batman's are the ones that usually do it, that when you pull something out that's fantastical, it makes me go like, well, wait, is this supposed to be real or fantastical?
Mm-hmm.
And the one where it really was pushed into the fantastical was the Tim Burton ones, because it would just painted itself like a comic book movie.
Yeah.
So you never questioned it. But Christopher Nolan tried to bring in a little bit of realism. So that's I never, and if somebody has a skull face like the Marvel movies, I don't care. I mean, they have nanotechs and dudes with hammers, whatever. So it doesn't bother me. So yeah. But we are 9:57 on my end, so we're getting close to wrapping up for the
On
night.
your end?
Yeah.
You better get some salve.
What is it? What is it on your end? It's 9:57 here.
12:57.
Hey, May the 4th be with you. It's May 4th
right.
here.
Is it May 4th?
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow we're doing the big Star Wars on the Wednesday where we're talking about Star Wars. Something we've never talked about in any of the Silverline shows before. So everyone tune in to hear our opinions, because this will be the first time we're giving them. Just giving a hard time.
I'll sit with my life-size Darth
Mackenzie's-
Vader and just
Mackenzie's
listen.
going to sign on to make sure everyone speaks canon.
Yeah.
Like, you speak out of canon.
I'll be like, okay, everybody, I'm the referee.
We ought to all show up to that.
Yeah,
Well,
just all
just
show up
inundate
and talk
them,
about
yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah. It'll be just a mess with all these people
Come
in
in as
there.
the Tuesday group and be like, hey, we just decided yesterday that we're
Were you
signing
guys
on.
here for that convention when we did that? Maybe you guys weren't. There was a convention before 2020. It was an online convention. Maybe it was during the pandemic. But as we did a virtual convention with these people, at the end we had like almost everyone on Silverline in like one panel, and it was like the screen. It was fun. the internet broke that day. But yeah, we did have it. So yeah, I mean, most of the time, if you ever want to join, a panel, just ask Roland. He's usually like, yeah, whatever, jump on. Not me, because they just all hate me. But it's like, no, we don't want that guy on.
Right.
But we are May 5th.
Because I think you're the one that's on like the most random. I'll be like, why is he on? He's on this one tonight. Okay.
I just join him. I just asked to join. He's like, okay. And a lot of times, because I'll be like, who wants to join? No one's coming on. I'm like, okay, I'll be on. I've even done one by myself. I think, didn't you do one by yourself, Quentin?
No. I was on here a few times with Tim, just he and I.
Okay.
You
maybe
were you were by yourself for a couple minutes though, Quentin. Because
yeah. You
felt
know what?
bad,
I do
and
remember
was, like,
that now.
Talking to you, so you didn't have to talk by yourself.
I do remember that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I
totally forgot.
It was a Sunday show I did by myself. They watched me draw, and I talked about my drawings, which I think is the most popular episode in all of Silverline streaming, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You mock and laugh at that, Jose, but that's true.
That's funny. Told you. Train wreck.
It is a train wreck. They all got to show up and see it.
You don't want to watch, but you have to.
This week we are
we have a guest
doing a
don't we, on
Kickstarter.
Wednesday?
We have 3 comics coming in. So 3 comics combined in one. So we've usually done 2. We're doing 3. I think like From the Stars, I think his name. Is that
Beyond
the name
the Stars. It's Beyond the Stars.
Beyond the Stars. I always get that wrong. Sorry about that. Beyond the Stars, Cray, which is the Barbarian one, and the Obsolete, which is obviously the highlight of the entire Kickstarter because I drew
That's
that
right.
one. And then of course Jose inked that, and so that's what you're really going to see is that comic. Let's all be honest.
guess you could compliment the other 2
if you have to. But again, without us on there, the other 2 you wouldn't even be looking at them. And now it's going to be a big war between everyone. And no, they absolutely suck. You got to get rid of them.
Right.
But yeah, I think that is launching tomorrow. But don't quote me on that. I don't know.
Yes.
It's the 5th.
Revenge of the Sith.
Or is it tomorrow's the 4th? So it'll be Thursday.
Yeah,
It's launching the 5th. So it'll be Thursday. Okay,
Revenge
Thursday.
of the 5th.
That's right. So yeah. So everybody look forward to that. 3 comics in one this time, not just 2. We're doing a triple
That's
feature.
great. Yeah, we're
Oh,
doing
wow.
This entire trilogy. And so, what does that be? 75 pages, almost 22 pages each. So
Man, I
close
wish we
to...
had sound effects. We do the Jeopardy Daily Double.
Yeah.
66.
66. That's so was it order 66?
Order
It was
66.
Order 66.
So it is order. Okay, so it is order 66. That's our comic. I didn't even that ties right into Star Wars. So yeah. So anyways, I'm Aaron Humphreys. I draw the obsoletes. Do you guys want to go around and tell each of us where we can find you on the internet?
Oh wait, I need to put on my crown for this.
Wow.
Yep,
that's true.
Given to me.
Yes. So Quentin, where can people find you on the internet?
Everywhere. Quentin J. Bedwell. You can Google it. You can go to Facebook. I'm on there. I have Instagram. I'm usually Kenobi. If you get shot by somebody, if it's a headshot, it's probably Kenobi. So look for it. My gamer tag used to be a flying turd. You were killed by a flying turd.
A flying turd.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Amber. Okay, now
Yeah.
on
Oh, wow.
now on the
Someone just shit the bed.
Yeah, I think we just lost viewers on that one. Okay, so
I don't
Jose,
think so.
where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram. I mean, I do have a Twitter, but I don't know why. I don't use it.
I think I have a Twitter too. I don't use it either.
Jose A. Fuentes Art. And yeah, if you want to send me condolence messages for being the former royal favorite of the group,
You can.
but I'll accept condolences and cry emojis.
So my
stole
queen,
my
where can they find you on the internet?
Well, they can find me at my website, which is justmyname.com, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wortman25, and then obviously at my fan club, which Jose and Aaron run.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yes.
About them.
Yeah, you can't help it. We have to have a
Just
fan
below.
club. It is. You can find me at Humphreys Illustration. My name is on the HUMPHRES. Make sure you spell my last name right, or you will never find me if you spell my last name correctly. You will only find me because I'm the only person in the universe that has the last name spelled that way. And then illustration. That's Facebook, Instagram, whatever. You'll find me. My portfolio site, my store where I sell comics I make. I'm the only person here that makes comics. None of us make comics here.
That's right.
I'm the only person that does. I keep trying to talk the rest of them into it, but they're not buying. So before we go, do you guys want to say our big tagline besides "Hail the Queen"?
Hail to the Queen.
Well, you can say that first.
You can say that first. So usually we say, "Make mine Silverline."
Right.
And we will see you guys all next week. I will be seeing you guys tomorrow because I'm on the Wednesday wham.
Oh.
Well, and then I will be
I'm
bugging
at the
you
big
guys to
kids
make sure
table.
you
That's
get
what he's saying.
That's
I'm
right.
at the big kids table.
They say I am. That's right.
But they're
Quentin.
not with the queen, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, I don't. There's no royalty there. Maybe Dean. I don't know, but only if he dresses in his cute Spartan dress. So, all right. See you the next Tuesday. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Good night.
My name is Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios and Make Mine Silverline.